Hello everybody and welcome to another A+ 1101 lesson/practice quiz at the end where I go through everything you need to know about this particular exam objective. In this case, it's objective 3.7, the last one in exam objective 3. Exciting stuff. We're going to go through everything you need to know for each of the dot points and sub-dot points that you can see here in order that they're given in the exam objectives, and then I'm going to give you some questions at the end to test you on the kind of things you'll need to know for your exam. So first up, we need to know the components of a laser printer. So the laser printer itself uses high voltages with heat and powdered toner. So the first thing here to note is that a laser printer uses a laser. That's one of the primary components within a laser printer. It's in the name. And when you're talking about the ink used in the printer, it is actually referred to as toner. So if you ever see the word toner thrown around in your assessment questions or the scenario that you're given with, you immediately know we're talking about a laser printer. All right, they're the only ones that use toners. Now, so you have the laser there, right? That's the first component. We'll talk about what these things do in a little more detail when we get to the processes section, but for now, just know there is a laser. The second component is an imaging drum. So this is like a really photosensitive drum inside the laser printer. What the laser does is it applies a charge to the drum by hitting it with a laser, and where it actually makes contact with the laser, it's applying a charge. These are going to be the components that the toner sticks to when it comes into contact with the drum. So the toner attaches to the parts of the drum that the laser has made contact with, and the drum then rolls that toner onto the paper. Okay, so that drum is inside the printer. An imaging drum, or a photosensitive drum, as it may be referred to in your exam, is in a laser printer. It also contains a fuser assembly. So this is the part of the printer that actually melts the toner onto the page. So the laser writes it onto the imaging drum rolls that onto the paper itself, and then the fuser melts the toner to the paper, which is where you finalize that print job. That's where it actually gets fused to the paper as a result of that heat. We also have a transfer belt, and that is used when it comes to colored laser printers only. So this essentially is responsible for using the correct color for the specific print job. So it's transferring, making sure you're using the correct colors, essentially, right? It's swapping out the colors, making sure you're not using blue when you should be using red. That's what a transfer belt does. Only in a color laser printer. Very important to note that. Now, a transfer roller transfers images onto the paper. So basically, it's applying pressure on the rear end of the paper, pushing it into that photosensitive drum, making sure that toner is being strictly and properly pressed onto the paper. That's what the transfer roller is doing. And you also have your pickup rollers, which are picking up the pages. These guys are picking up one page at a time and sending them into the printer to make sure the printing process can actually begin. And then, of course, your separation pads, which separate sheets of paper in the tray to ensure that only one piece of paper is picked up at a time. So the pickup rollers and separation pads are working hand in hand to make sure that we're picking up one piece at a time and we don't get a paper misfeed, where everything gets bundled up and all of that bad stuff happens. We also have a duplexing assembly. We should know what that is. I think we covered it last objective. Regardless, that's what allows you to print on both sides of the paper. It prints on one side, it flips it around, prints on the other side. A duplexing assembly is what allows for printing on both sides of the paper. If you don't have that, you cannot print on both sides of the paper. So if a laser printer has that, that's what it's able to do. Now, the process itself, we did roughly go through it while talking about what is actually in a laser printer, but just to be safe, let's go through it again. So step one, it processes, it's processing. So the printer is rendering the printing job in memory. It's saying, okay, this is what you want me to print. I completely understand. Charging, the corona wire / charge roller applies a negative charge to the drum, right? So that photosensitive drum is negatively charged. Why is it negatively charged? Because it's being prepared for the positive charge that's going to come from the laser. So the laser paints the photosensitive drum with a positive charge, which then is going to determine where the toner sticks to. Developing, so the negatively charged toner sticks to the positively charged sections of the photosensitive drum, right? So it's now stuck, and then you're transferring that toner onto the paper with the help of the transfer roller as well from behind. Fusing, it passes through that heating element or the fuse assembly, which is where the toner is melted onto the page. And then finally, cleaning is where excess toner is removed from the photosensitive drum to ensure the previous print job does not carry over into the next print job. We'll talk about issues that can occur if any parts of this process fails in the troubleshooting section later on down the line in Objective 5. For now, just understand the process. There is a little video here which you can, I won't play it, but you can read the title, How a Color Laser Printer Works inside an HP 2600 toner cartridge. Google that if you want to see a nice little video going specifically into how that actually works. But I don't think I'm going to play that here because I don't want to get copyright infringements. Then you guys got to watch random ads, and we don't want that. So maintenance, what do you have to do? You have to replace the toner. The printer will let you know when there's not enough toner, and you'll need to power down the printer, remove the old cartridge, ensure all packaging has been removed from the new toner cartridge, and insert a new toner cartridges. Pretty self-explanatory, right? You'll need to apply a maintenance kit. Now, you can usually order this from the manufacturer themselves. Generally, your printer will let you know when it's time to use the maintenance kit, depending on how many pages you have printed. So it will detect, hey, you've printed this amount of pages. It's about time to use the maintenance kit. Please go ahead and do that. So, of course, again, you want to make sure you power off the printer when using the maintenance kit. Don't do it while the printer is on. Otherwise, you might be electrocuted and become some sort of evil Spider-Man supervillain with electric powers. We don't want that. Our police have enough problems to deal with. Then reset the page counter so your printer can say, okay, cool, you've done the maintenance kit. I will stop counting that. Another thing you'll need to do in relation to maintenance is you'll need to make sure you calibrate your printer. So not all toner cartridges print with the same density, and different densities have darker or lighter colors. So it's important that before you do any actual printing, you install, your new toner, you get everything up and running, you do a calibration in order to change the density and therefore ensure the colors remain accurate and consistent with what you're used to and what you're going to expect. And finally, make sure you're cleaning the outside of the printer with a damp cloth. Clean the inside with a vacuum that is specifically designed to vacuum toner. Don't just stick any vacuum in there. That could be dangerous. You got electrostatic discharge that might be occurring. Make sure you're looking at using a vacuum specifically designed for that. You also don't want to damage your regular vacuum too. Now, inkjet printers are the next one. They're affordable, they're quiet, and they print in high resolution. So if you're looking at printing like super high quality photos, these might be the ones for you. Your components are, you have your ink cartridges, which are here on the bottom left photo that I'm sure we're all very familiar with. You don't need me to run you through those. Generally, they use, I never know how to pronounce this one, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. You have your print head, right? A print head. The print head is often integrated into the ink cartridge. So you've got the print head over here on the right. That's what that looks like. The print head is replaced at the same time that the cartridge is replaced. So whenever you replace your cartridge, you're also replacing the print head. Helps keep everything clean and making sure you got a new print head when you get a new cartridge, so you don't have to worry about constantly maintaining the print head for a long duration. You have your feeder roller, which again, same thing in any printer really, just like the laser printer. It's picking up the paper and feeding it through the printer one page at a time. Duplexing assembly, again, same thing as in the laser printer. Duplexing, all it does, make sure you can print on both sides of the page. I won't harp on about that too much. And the carriage belt carries the ink cartridges across the printer. When you start up the ink, your inkjet printer, it kind of goes, that's the carriage belt. That's doing that. So your maintenance, again, calibration, making sure your colors are accurate and consistent. You can do that through the printer settings. Just calibrate the printer. Whenever you insert new cartridges, always a good idea. You're going to want to clean your print heads. So if your page does have streaks across it, it's probably because you have dirty print heads in your cartridges. The printer does often automatically clean itself, but it's always a good idea if you're having issues to manually start the cleaning process as well. You can just do that on the printer itself. Alternatively, you can also physically remove the cartridges and clean the print heads yourself. Generally, it's always a good idea to calibrate after you insert new ink cartridges. And if you do get a paper jam, it's important to clear those jams by removing the paper tray, look inside the printer, and remove paper from the paper path. That's really self-explanatory. Your printer will even usually give you a specific instruction as to how exactly you need to do that on screen if it's one of the high-tech kind of newer ones. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to thermal printers. We're almost there, guys. You might be thinking, do I really need to know all these little nitty-gritty details about all these printers? Yes, you do. It's literally in the exam objectives. Unfortunately, we need to go through all of these. Thermal printers apply heat to a special kind of paper. When they apply heat, the specific components of the paper that they have applied heat to turn black. That's how you get your receipts, generally speaking. So the paper is very sensitive to light and heat. So therefore, it's not appropriate for archiving purposes. So you don't want to rely on holding a physical receipt for archiving. You're going to want to make sure you have some sort of digital copy of that receipt, because if you leave it in the sun or in heat or really anywhere, eventually it's going to fade or turn black. So thermal printers, very, very often used to print receipts. The components, you've got your feed assembly and your heating element. Of course, the feed assembly pulls the paper through the printer, just like every other printer. And then the heating element heats the paper and turns those specific components that have been heated black to produce your output. And then you've got your special thermal paper. So again, as we just said, the paper is very sensitive to heat and light. Don't leave it out. Don't rely on it for archiving purposes. It looks like that. Maintenance. Make sure you do replace the paper when you need. Yes, I need to tell you that. Clean the heating element. It's very important to follow the manufacturer's instructions exactly as with anything. It's always a good bet to follow manufacturer's instructions. You can use a liquid cleaner such as IPA and a cleaning pen to gently swab the heating element if that's something that you feel like you have to do. And you can use a cleaning card to clean the paper path as well. Of course, if there's any debris within the printer, make sure you do remove those debris, ideally with compressed air. Be careful of your eyes in case debris hits you in the eyes. Maybe wear goggles if you want to be super, super safe. Now, the heat sensitivity of the paper, we've gone through this, right? I'm not going to go on about it anymore. Pause if you want to read that, but it's basically what we already talked about. But it is just that separate exam objective, so I wanted to give it its own slide. So pause to read that, otherwise we'll move on. You get the picture, right? We'll move on to impact printers. So these guys are not quiet. They're also known as dot matrix printers, and they essentially stamp the ink onto the paper. They also use ink, just like our inkjet printers. They are stamping the ink onto the printer. It's a big stamping sound when that occurs. They're very noisy, and they don't have very high quality output. So you're not going to use them to print photos or anything like that. Usually very, very basic kind of prints. If you want to create a carbon copy, right, where you're stamping it and it's almost going through to the copy behind it, that's where you might want to use an impact printer too. If you want to do, you get that like separately colored sheet behind where you get a copy and they get a copy. Impact printer is something that can do that because it just stamps straight through. So your components, you have your print head. As you can see over here, you've got your print head. So that print head moves back and forth across the paper, stamps into the ribbon, which then applies ink onto the page. You then have your ribbon, which we can see here. The ribbon is full of ink and pressed onto the page by the print head, therefore transferring the ink onto the paper. And then you've got your tractor feed. So the tractor feed essentially is just the mechanism that feeds this paper through the printer, and it's relying on those little holes along the edge to pull that paper through. So your impact paper is a specific kind of paper. You cannot use any kind of paper with an impact printer. You must use specifically impact paper. You can only use this specific type of paper. It has holes on either side designed to be used by the tractor feed. That's about it. That's the paper you use in an impact printer. You use impact paper. Who would have known? And maintenance, make sure you replace the ribbons. They're designed to be easily replaced. Make sure you replace your print head, also designed to be easily replaced. And make sure you replace your paper in case you run out. Yes, I need to tell you that as well. Now, finally, we'll move on to 3D printers. This is one where it's less intuitive. So far, it's been a bit like, wow, replace the paper? Okay, who would have known? But this is where we dial in a little bit more, where it's definitely less intuitive. So 3D printers do print in 3 dimensions, of course. You can see an example of one over here to the right. Now, there's 2 different types of 3D printers. One of them uses filament and one of them uses resin. So filament is what you can see here. It's almost like that barrel of weird looking straw type stuff, I guess, that's really, really vibrant colors. And essentially how filament 3D printers work is you have your print bed and your filament will be placed on the print bed one layer at a time. Now, it is not upside down, right? So you've got your print bed and it's printing directly on top of the print bed. However, with resin printing, there is a pool of resin at the bottom, and your print bed is actually hanging upside down. It lowers down into the resin and a laser heats up the specific part of that resin, which then hardens it, and that's how the printing occurs. So filament printing is right way up, whilst resin printing is upside down. That's important to know, and take into account how the print print bed operates in each of those. That's the basic gist of what you'll need to know really for the most part. So we'll go ahead and get into our question time. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsor for today. Hey guys, I'm just here to tell you that the A+ 1101 learning package with the practice exams, the learning guide that people are absolutely loving, and the performance-based question simulation is on sale for the next 3 days, and that is on sale for $50. So you're getting $25 off only the next 3 days. If you want that, go grab it. All right, let's go back to the questions. The first question reads, your company has recently received a large delivery of printer components and you have been tasked with sorting them into their relevant categories. Which printer type has ink cartridges, a carriage belt, and a print head? A, impact printer, B, laser printer, C, thermal printer, or D, inkjet printer? Your answer in 3 seconds. Pause the video if you need more time. 3, 2, 1. Now, your answer is D, an inkjet printer. So again, we just need to know what components go with what printer. Not a lot to talk about there. If you're not sure, go back, rewatch the video. Next question, how do thermal printers create prints, and what is a notable characteristic of the resulting prints? A, thermal printers use laser technology to fuse toner onto paper, resulting in vivid color prints. B, thermal printers apply heat to special paper, causing the paper to turn black in heated areas. The resulting prints are sensitive to light and heat. C, thermal printers use an inkjet mechanism to spray droplets of ink onto paper, producing vibrant and archival quality prints. Or D, thermal printers use a special kind of paper called thermochromic paper, which turns black when exposed to light. The resulting prints are suitable for long-term archival purposes. Take a few seconds to get your head around that one. Pause the video if you need it. I recommend doing that if you feel like it's something you need to do. Answer coming up, 3, 2, 1, now. The answer is B. Thermal printers apply heat to special paper, causing the paper to turn black in heated areas. The resulting prints are sensitive to light and heat. So important that they are not appropriate for archival purposes. I believe that was the key differentiating factor. Because D was largely accurate, right? They do use special kind of paper, which turns black when exposed to light. You could be tricked into thinking, yeah, so far that's right. But here's where it loses us. It is not actually suitable for long-term archival purposes. So that's where that one went wrong. So you need to know the components and know when is a suitable use case and when it is just not a suitable use case. So next question. After multiple colleagues have complained about the printer not working properly, you decide to take a look. After some investigation, you discover that the mechanism responsible for transferring paper from the tray to the inside of the printer is malfunctioning. Which component needs to be fixed or replaced? A, the fuse assembly, B, the photosensitive drum, C, the feeder rollers, or D, the page orientation setting? Pause the video if you need to. Answer in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is C, your feeder rollers. Again, just know what different components do within a printer and you should be fine. Another question, here we go. A printer uses a ribbon with ink cartridges that strike the paper to create an image. It produces a distinct dot matrix pattern when you look closely at the printed text. What type of printer is this? A, laser printer, B, inkjet printer, C, impact printer, or D, 3D printer? Pause the video if you need it. Answer in 3, 2, 1. The answer is C, an impact printer, right? That was, if we were listening during the video, that was clearly impact. We should have hopefully gotten that one. Next question reads, this printer uses a toner cartridge filled with a fine powder that is transferred to a drum using a laser beam. The toner then gets fused to the paper with heat and pressure. What type of printer is this? A, impact printer, B, inkjet printer, C, laser printer, or D, thermal printer? Pause the video if you need to, as usual. Your answer in 3, 2, 1. C, laser printer was our answer for that question. Listen, if you enjoyed this video, you found it useful, over at journeytocyber.com, I do have a learning guide which breaks everything down into exam objective and further into each dot point for every single exam objective. Here are some of the reviews for that learning guide. Your notes helped me pass my test today. The guide is very good. Your guide is goated. I don't comment, but this definitely helps with organized information. I downloaded your guide already and can see that it will help me immensely. So if you want to get your hands on that, it's at journeytocyber.com. I also have my 5 practice exams over here to the right, which have 5 practice exams. And again, you can break it down into individual exam objectives to make sure you're covering what you actually need to cover. And finally, I also have my performance-based question simulations, which is cool. You can actually go through, click on the different problems, solve the problems, not rely on multiple choice questions, and make sure you're getting ready to have the confidence you need to take that final exam. And currently, that's all on a 25% discount. So $50 for all of that. That being said, guys, these free videos are also really all you'll need to pass. But if you just want that bit of extra help right now, right away, head over there and grab that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.